All right, good evening, everybody. I think we're back to the 33rd episode of Harold Abelson. This is the Priest DLC for Cultist Simulator. Let's take a look. So I think the plan here was to keep going on paintings where I could. I believe we're actually prepped up for another one. We are following through on some expeditions, and we were going to use the notoriety that we generated to sort of finance future paintings. So let's make an effort on it. Worthless! I've produced nothing of use or significance at all. I should be ashamed of myself. Still, if I have a reputation, it might sell. My recent work is considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. This is better than my paintings that I put an effort in. I'm pretty sure there's more than a few people who make things that I like that feel that way about their creative work. So if memory serves, we were going to do a Grail painting. So let's take a second here. We will grab our passion. You never know, this may be a living. And we will take the delightful sacrament as our inspiration. Those who know will understand. I received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So this will give me something for the painting if I need it. Another glimmering, not that I really needed another one of those. Now, as far as talking's concerned, I don't really have a whole lot to do with it right now, so I think I'm just going to have to let that sort of hang around for a bit. Oh, no, that's not true. Let's grab Laidlaw. Could you please fix my mirror? We can begin to repair this, but it will take at least a bronze spintrea to purchase the necessary materials. I feel it's taken forever for me to actually get that done. I've talked about it forever, but... Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. Now, I'd love to pretend that I was smart enough to have anticipated this, but it occurred to me that the raw profit is actually better than the Callagine. Or actually, no, sorry. In the case of the raw profit and the Callagine, both of them are moth, which is what makes them good. So no, I was about to say something silly. I thought for a second that the Callagine might be more appropriate than the raw profit for the woods, but the whole point of the woods is that it's affiliated with moth, which is the same aspect that you use to destroy evidence. So the Callagine and the raw profit would have been just as good in this case. So I'm going to move on and pretend I didn't admit to saying that. Peril-prowled forests. Long ago, the primal trees marched from sea to sea. Some traces of their reign still survive, like this dense and choking territory of root and thorn. The practicalities of forge or the mysteries of moth may see us through. Now, in this case, because we took the raw profit over the Callagine, we do actually need to bring a moth follower in. But the good news about that is we also don't need to use the precussagant to tear apart the watchers. We can dupe them. Sylvia, you'd probably be good at this. So, watchers, mortals, perhaps even ordinary mortals, but quite a number of them. They can be fought, seduced, or deceived. I don't know if you get a higher chance against the monks. I suspect not, but I've always wondered if you do. Okay, colors of the night. So we'll bring the vital pigment for the Grail. And the wood beneath the mantis is darker than this place. The moth will guide our footfalls. Success is very likely. Utter focus. All that I am is here. This will never quite dry. Perfect. Okay, let's try the painted river. Oh, could have been worse. I'm ready to improve. Actually, this is a nice little erudition to keep in my pocket because it lasts longer. The painted river runs from a great chamber near the White Door, far through the mantis, to its far edge where it enters a painted delta of far cloud. I voyaged half its length last night, with a stern-faced captain beneath a rust-red sail. As the clouds rose before us, the sailors raised a yearning shanty and close-hauled the sails to best use the painted wind. And all the while, the captain and I discoursed of the secrets of the House of the Sun. Should have had some water before I recorded this, so sorry for stumbling over the pronunciation sometimes. Alright. We've got a Season of Suspicion coming up. That's kind of inconvenient for my overall plans, particularly because the raw profit is otherwise occupied. So let's see if we can do something about our reputation. Something unique. I've made something unique, something extraordinary, something I will never dare to exhibit publicly. This cannot possibly ever see daylight. It will earn no funds. Okay, more glimmering. We've got some contentment. We can put that up there. Well, that's reputation, so put it here. Lots of glimmering. Only 1 notoriety. Three notoriety. There we go. A particularly notorious painting. That's actually going to be a bit of a problem for the investigation. But in this case, I'm just going to ignore it, basically. All the passion. We're going to treat it like we were before. So I'll be honest, I would have preferred not to have the investigation happen when it did. But we'll work with what we've been given. So the Red Grail. She did not split the sun, but here we might imagine how she must have desired it. And with that in mind, we will take the... Let's make sure the fresh stuff gets scooped up. And in this case, we can really just make a painting about anything. We'll call this one, I'm very happy that the Suppression Bureau is investigating me. And we will grab the stag door and see if we can get something new. Alright, so we need an air edition for this challenge. I think I'm going to move straight into the Igavine Rite and try and... we need the Bronze Betrayer. My follower needs a Bronze Betrayer or better to complete their task. Actually, I might need to wait till this decays, but... And I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. In this case, we'll spend the money. This is the best chance I have to generate cash out of a painting. Unless there's an interaction with certain subjects, that works better. The mirror is repaired. It shines again as it did once before. So this is a level 8 lantern. Again, I can make the painting... Actually, the painting's slightly better because I don't need to... I won't use the painting to try... Pretty sure the painting isn't a mirror. But yeah, the Wildering Mirror I'll have other purposes for, whereas the painting I might just, you know... That's kind of dedicated to one thing. But we'll carry on. Mirror is repaired. It shines again as it did once before. Count Jennings isn't quite ready for the encounter. I mean, one thing I could try and do is murder the weary detective or convert them, but it's probably better for me just to leave them alone and deal with the evidence as it comes up. So the talk verb is going to be left alone for now. There's something up ahead. We've made it through the forest. So our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. Okay, well, there's the vitality that I needed ages ago. The extra mystique's always welcome. It will eventually be overrun by the investigation, but it gives me a chance to build a bit of subterfuge. Oh my god, that's a lot. Alright, that's 7 funds. Good lord. Alright. Well, we're definitely doing that again. And again, I'll try and get the most recent notoriety to be the one that sort of hangs out. This one we'll do on the Fleeting Reminiscence. World as it is. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I'm sane if that means anything. Fascination. No fascination drives your visions. It's over for now. We don't need to do anything with the expedition. We're already in the season of suspicion, so no worries there. And I could do another summoning if I really felt like it, but what would I... Well, actually, you know, in this case, an extra Caligine wouldn't go amiss. Now I'll go to the Painted River, though. Rat! Ah, well. I dreamt of the mansis behind the white door, of this great space above the orchard, the space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted a river. Painted ships passed upon the painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movement of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see those colors still. So I was thinking I might be able to get an extra lore out of that, but I also, as usual, I don't fear fascination quite as much when I have Fleeting Reminiscence kicking around. Now, let's have a chat with Count Jennings about a new commission. And we will pay up for the paints. Can at least invest a little bit of that back into the excuse me, into the painting business. Okay, and I almost blew this, so there's our rarefied mind for the illumination challenge. My own heart pumps more strongly today. Powerful deception. Look closer. Closer still. Closer. Their bewilderment is our opportunity. We'll pass in silent secrecy. And my recent work has accrued modest fame. My paintings have reviewed well. So more mystique is always welcome. A little extra contentment for me. This board is a mess. So only two funds out of that. So, I do have a little bit of a question in terms of, I mean, I can keep trying to flog the painting. I am slightly curious whether or not painting an esoteric painting is going to improve my staleness at all. Probably not, but let's give it a shot. So what subject do I want? I guess I said moth was going to be the most useful here in terms of things that I don't have. Also, I've got another job for Laidlaw. Significant conversations in a smoky meeting room. What do I need from my follower? So we can finally repair that cracked noonstone. We can begin to repair this, but it will take funds to purchase the necessary parts. Now I understand. And season of ambition's coming up, so I am going to have to deal with some restlessness. So we'll put the piebald pigment in to try and get a better, or not, to try and get the special painting. Now, dream-wise, I don't think there's anything else to be done but going back to the stag door. Alright, I have increased the mastery of the glorious lore, which we call by its aspect lantern. Actually, if I recall, that might be enough for me to get to the spider's door. Yes! In dreams, the silken sands are the place that whispers. Grey grains sift, grey weeds quiver. I have read the angular tracks one must follow of the sand's arced, unseen, slow-stepping residents. Okay, now I could try and move up the Forgotten Chronicle. I could try and move up Winter. And I could actually potentially bring Heart even higher. So Winter would require... Okay, we don't have a silent intensity. So yeah, we would need Dread. We do have erudition. Okay, yeah. Dread and erudition would be what we need there. So technically we really don't have anything that we need for the item. I'll just turn this into a lesson learned. Oh! I don't know why I fast forwarded, but that explains why everything seemed to finish so quickly. And we will give Laidlaw... Whoa! Oh, funds. Okay, my bad. I made something unique, something extraordinary, something I will never dare exhibit publicly. This cannot possibly ever see daylight. It will earn no funds. The critics argue over what color this actually is. Perhaps they'll come to blows. Okay, the rattling in the soul is going to turn into a... restlessness at some point. Sorry. Centipede Testament isn't actually as... No, wait, hang on. I had something else going on in my head. Tends to happen when you're talking about Moth. Alright, in the forests of the First Continent, our ancestors cursed themselves with their own god. So, I guess I did say that I would do... I guess it's actually Lantern or Forge. Forge probably makes a little more sense. Yeah, Forge... Heart I don't quite need as strongly because I've got that high level for the Formula Vigilant. So I've used up all my passion. In this case, I think I'm going to do I'm going to do another commercial painting, and in this case, it is going to like, it's not going to make as much money. It's not necessarily going to help my staleness, but it does give me something to do with the work verb. And as nice as a commission would be, it is actually still good for me to get money for the expeditions. Speaking of. The memory of crows. This is the great oak where the masked crow once roosted. Lightning has split it from head to heart, and the tree is charred and rotting. It squirms with finger-length worms. Something glints dully in the swarm of dead roots. So it'll give me something to paint later. Oh, lots to paint. A root coils around an egg of lead the size of a child. Perhaps it was plated with another metal once, but the weather has removed all trace of any coating. After a struggle, the halves of the egg come apart to reveal its contents. So, even more notoriety. Thank you, Raw Prophet. Thank you, Percussagant. We've got the Whispering Amulet, which is actually, it defies description, so it's both moth and grail. It knows what I desire, or I imagine that it does. We've got in the mountains as upon the plain. In the mountains as upon the plain, there may not be a path where none has passed. A work by Nangala of Lagash, which is in Vac, so that's going to take me a while to learn. I have a dappled mask, so the whole reason why I got the moth painting is now irrelevant. I'm going to move the Whispering Amulet to the side just because I'm running out of room. And we've got Lethe. A dark and syrupy liquor favored in unnamed forest villages. The tongue and the eye, and now we begin. Forget your name, forget your skin. So I'm going to need to figure out a better sorting system at some point. Okay, I think we just go on to the next expedition. So that's going to be Foreman House. Philip Foreman, the helminthologist and antiquarian, did all his best work at his family home until the day his subject escaped. The infestation was destroyed, but Foreman, they say, walks the halls to this day, guarding his library and his shame. So this, of course, would imply winter. Now, there is a temptation to leave the Raw Prophet out of the expedition in order to be able to deal with the evidence. But of course, the longer the Raw Prophet stays out, the more likely it is that they're going to decay. So if we need to deal with the evidence earlier than expected, I'll just try and summon a Callagine or something like that to deal with my problem. Unquestionably, this bleak mansion is haunted. The last visitor saw and fled the dead before they could touch him with their fraying hands. The visitor before claimed she saw nothing, but she died of despair exactly 1 year later to the day. Okay, again, we'll pay up for the paints, but the returns will probably be a bit lower. We've got our first restlessness that I need to deal with. Again, I don't know if I actually have enough to be able to deal with this all at once, but we can probably use one of these in a summoning. The stone is repaired. It shines again as it did once before. Talking, I think we're good. I don't have anything to repair right now, and I don't have any commissions to turn in. The sands drain away like water, and beneath the stone from which the gods arose so long ago. Ahead is the door, glistening like the rain, its black surface beaded with blood, each drop heavy curved like a swollen tick. So of course I can try to start abducting a few people to sacrifice to the spider's door, but I'm not quite ready to take that action yet, particularly because I'm already generating a lot of notoriety through other means. So I think we're just going to go back through the stag door for the time being. But I'm going to reevaluate my approach in a little bit. The stag door is the Adept's Gate. To pass it is to be initiated into the first true mystery of the House of the Sun. The headgear bee weeps to see me enter where it cannot, but it must let me pass. The scarred valves of the door grind open. The stag door is actually one of the more useful ones to me, not just because it doesn't require you to get a sacrifice to go through it, unlike the spider's door, or to a lesser extent the peacock's door. It's also very helpful because if you think of the types of influence you get from it, so knock is kind of a key to, well, yeah, that's kind of the point, I suppose. But knock will kind of get you anything, as long as you've got enough intensity of the various types of of lore, and again through whatever means, whether it's instruments or influence or what have you. Knock will kind of give you access to whatever you need. Now, if you go a little bit deeper, so you've got Edge. Edge is going to give you some of the more useful ones for either expeditions or dealing with hunters. So in that case, you can get things like Maids in the Mirrors, Hints, Percussagants. Winter, again, that'll help you get a Callagine if you need it. Although you do need to mess around a little bit, I think, with the well, no, actually, I guess it's kind of the same as summoning anything else. You can get Forge. Again, that's helpful in bringing in a Callagine. And then there was another one that you can get out of it. Knock, Winter. Well, on that on its own, right? For the majority. Oh, I guess, can you get Grail out of it? Grail kind of feels like it should be something you can get from the Sharp Stare, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't really remember getting Grail from the Stag Door, but my memory doesn't count. Either way, though, like you kind of see here, right? Like the influence that you can get from it, you've got a pretty wide range of things that you can turn into summons. The risk for going to the Sharp Stare is that you potentially wind up with the Winter influence, which means that somewhere down the road you have to deal with a Dread, which honestly is not that big of a deal to deal. Like to me, like dealing with Decaying Winter is probably one of the more minor inconveniences that you have to deal with. And of course, you potentially wind up getting higher lore, or you potentially wind up with an influence that you need. Then, of course, if you go to the Painted River, you run the risk of generating a fascination. So at sometimes that can be a big challenge. But for the most part, is again just one of those things where you're like, okay, this is a risk I'm willing to take in order to be able to achieve a certain objective. And then, of course, the erudition lesson learnt's kind of nice because I tend to need to get my ducks in a row. So one of the reasons I like erudition lesson learnt, even though you can't use them when upgrading lore, one of the things that it will get you is the opportunity to say, okay, I know I've got an erudition coming up in 300 seconds. Let me plan to make sure that I have my glimmering or my dread or whatever I need for an upgrade. So actually a decent example of this would be, well, maybe I'm okay letting one of these decay into dread so long as I don't have a Season of Despair coming up, because I would like to use the Grim Lesson in terms of upgrading. But of course, I need to make sure that I have an erudition set aside. I've only got one right now, and that's going to be used for the Knock lore. But anyways, that's kind of how I think about the Stag Door. So in addition to just not liking the payment for the Spider's Door, I do actually find the Stag Door to be a very useful location for more reasons than just the lore it gives me. With that in mind, though, let's preserve... It feels a little weird not to be generating more erudition, but I think preserving the Glimmering's not the worst choice that I could be making right now. I have inexplicably dodged another... investigation. The expedition continues. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. So we've got a curse coming up. So the Fretful Dead, we either bring Winter or Edge. We only need to bring one follower if I want to deal with Edge. I'm going to need to bring two if I want to deal with Winter. And then we have the Dry Soul Curse. We need Heart or Lantern to suppress this curse. Otherwise, it will not keep us from our goal, but it may trouble us later. You know what? Variety is the spice of life. Let's bring a couple of Winter followers in to see how it goes. My recent work has accrued modest fame. My paintings have reviewed well. Okay, so some extra vitality, more mystique. Not that that's super important. Got a contentment, glimmering, still have notoriety. I'm gonna have to mess around a little bit to figure out which ones I want to put into a painting. We've got a ton of staleness now, so we didn't earn that much money. So first thing I'm gonna do is actually do a passion. Oh, I would if I could. So I'm gonna wait the 6 seconds. So this isn't gonna be to generate another instrument. This is actually specifically so that I can get my staleness down. Another restlessness coming up. So I should think about how I'm going to get an erudition before too long. So we'll be able to move the Igavine right up. And then if I play my cards right, so to speak, we can use the operation of the declining sun. This one I think we will abstain from buying better paints. That's probably going to be fascination. Nope. And turns out we do get Grail, so it is difficult to control oneself. The Ascent of Knives is called the Sharp Stair, and the Mother of Mirrors, and the Feast of the Grail. If one is to look beneath the stair, as I did last night in my dreams, one understands that last name. It draws a tithe of blood from the feet of those who ascend. And Pausai, some shaped like men, many shaped like women, wait beneath the glass of the stairs to satisfy their hunger. I did not approach, I made no sound, I only observed. This is maybe not a bad example of... So, like, one thing that's helpful about broadcasting is it kind of keeps you honest in terms of, like... There's a cruder way that I could put it, but, like, you are not allowed to pretend that you are more clever at a game or that you know more than you actually do. So if I say, oh yeah, that's probably going to have a fascination, and it turns out not to have a fascination, there is a semi-permanent document. I guess semi-permanent doesn't mean permanent. There's a open... Everybody can see me not knowing. And I think there's some value in that, particularly if you like getting better at stuff. The fewer opportunities you give yourself to lie to yourself, generally the better you get. At least for me. I think maybe I just have a particular talent for self-deception, so it's nice to have mechanisms that push back on that. There was something I was going to say about that. But I actually... oh, you're right, yeah. So this wasn't really supposed to be about me, but it's an example of some of the stuff that I like about Cultist Simulator and why I think this game is quite special. And it's just because, and I've talked about this before, but it's the idea of how when you spend enough time with it and you sort of have this, maybe not exactly dream logic, but you have this sense of how it works and why there should be certain things. So, for instance, one of the first times that you run in, one of the first things you encounter is the wood, right? Specifically the Mantis location, the wood. And there's an association with the wood and moth, and the idea of cutting hair being associated with moth. And if you play the game enough times, you will see that it keeps coming up, right? You've got Porter the barber, you've got references to cut hair and moth over and over and over again. And then you'll see that it's like, okay, moth also seems to be showing up when I have restlessness, and moth seems to be showing up when, for the following next few things, and you're like, oh, passion, okay, so passion sort of participates in moth, and you sort of get an idea about where certain things sort of fit, even if you couldn't necessarily articulate them in a really clear sort of step-by-step logical way. And this is interesting to me because I do very much think that way. And I think probably that comes across in some of my gameplay in terms of saying, actually, maybe in particular, when I've first encountered things. So like when I first play the priest or when I first play Exile, definitely there were a few comments I noticed that were saying, it's like, oh, wow, you play this very differently from the way that I do in terms of just sort of reasoning through and figuring it out. But I like the fact that despite my temperament, Cultist Simulator is one of these games where I'm sort of able to say, I don't really remember getting Grail from the Sharp Stair, which, I mean, obviously I have, and this is just my faulty memory, right? This is, obviously I was under a misapprehension, and, it's clear if I thought about it a little bit longer, I'd be like, no, of course I've gotten Grail from there. But you could see sort of when I was thinking about it, it's like, I don't know if there's Grail behind the Sharp. Like, I wouldn't want to, wouldn't stake my life on it, right? Say, okay, well, there may or may not be Grail, but it really feels like there should be Grail. And then, of course, you go back to the Mantis and you see it and you read the description. You're like, yeah, of course. Why did I ever think that there wasn't Grail there? And like I said, this is the sort of stuff that defies a simple or like a sort of a line-by-line rundown of how you reached that conclusion. But I like that this game continues to reward thinking that way, and that, you know, I do largely think of the game in this way. So even if I do something that's a little bit more data-driven in terms of doing a blog and such, I do tend to find that I, you know, generally, well, it's a little bit like when I write, right? There is that basic idea. If you have an idea for an article, or I don't really do short stories, but, you know, if you did want to do something in fiction, you know, it's always a tough one. You know, where do ideas come from? The best answer I've ever been able to come up with is usually just you have two things that smash together, and they wind up creating something new. But I'll maybe talk about that later, because I know you didn't sign up for a monologue. But it does bring me back to the stuff that I think made Cultist Simulator special to me for a game when I first played it in beta, and there wasn't a lot inside the game, and why I continue to play it even though I've done all of the DLC. And obviously the pursuit is not just to get the victories anymore. The pursuit is just to spend a little bit more time in the world and have an interesting time with it. And that does give me a chance to just sort of say, is particularly for those of you who've maybe felt that this game couldn't quite hold your interest, or it was maybe a little bit too difficult, you know, just turn off the targeting computer, use the Force, let go. You know, sometimes it just may not be for you, and that's totally fine, right? We all have different tastes for games. But for me, even though I definitely would consider myself to be on the Lantern side of players, I definitely think that this is a game that definitely rewards sort of some of the leaps of logic, or just saying, it's like, I really feel like this thing should be over here. And again, like I say, I mean, if you're very logical, you can just brute force all the cards together, but I just don't think it's as interesting. In any case, I'm sorry to sort of run out your time. Hopefully that was interesting enough to justify the extended goodbye, or the early ending, depending on how you want to think about it. But I think I should probably just leave it here, because we are going into the next phases of a few things. There's actually one last thing I'll do. Glad Eau Claire. The dead circle the edge of our vision like frayed dreams. The very air around us is chill with winter's shadow. They must recognize that. All right. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much for watching. If you've not done so, please consider following the channel. And if you liked this video, please feel free to leave a like. If you disliked it, I guess you can leave a dislike. And I do love reading the comments. They do help me get noticed. But in particular, I do like hearing from all of you. And thank you for continuing to do so, because I've noticed there's actually a very large number of comments where people say, I don't normally comment on things, but... and you are all commenters after my own heart, because I know it's helpful, but I don't do it a lot myself. Have a lovely evening. I'll see you tomorrow.